Welcome to the Aligned Singer. I am so happy you're here. I cannot wait to have this conversation with you today. Let me slow my roll. We're talking about some strange things that happen after you finish an audition, performance, or really any situation where you get up in front of people and share your gift, and when you have really strange thoughts afterwards, especially the negative ones. But before we get there, let me introduce myself. My name is Sarah Hockey. I'm a voice teacher with a focus on vocal technique. I'm a classical soprano. I love to sing. Just kidding. No, I'm not kidding. I do love to sing. And I'm your bel canto bestie. I'm here to help you connect the dots from wherever you are now to wherever you want to be, no matter how far apart those dots are. And that's what we're talking about today. On today's episode of The Aligned Singer, we're going to dig into something that is very real and very raw in my own life right now. And I was like, well, this is hot to the touch. I'm going to bring it up the next time we chat because I've seen this happen to so many of my students, and usually it perplexes me because frankly, I had lost touch with what it was that they were experiencing. But I got back in touch with it just a few days ago after a performance, and I am so excited to bring this to your attention and have a discussion of when it comes up, and it probably will, what we can do to move through it and get to the other side and not stay stuck. What I'm talking about is when you get up on stage, we're going to take performance, but this could be an audition. We're going to say performance, but it could be things like auditions, things like juries, competitions, getting up in front of your peers and singing, like in a studio class environment. Any time where you're getting up in front of another person or a group of people and sharing your craft, sharing your gift of your voice. And afterwards, you start to feel like crap, and you start to beat yourself up, and you find the one mistakes, or maybe you felt like there was 30 mistakes that you made, and oh my gosh, and you start to unravel like you're just this terrible performer and I'm so far behind and blah 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 blah. We'll get into it. And I have a little secret for you. I wanted to call it mistake amplification. But that's not the real name for it. I haven't decided the name for it. We can chat wherever you're listening to this. If you can comment below, like on YouTube and Spotify, let me know. If you have a great, catchy, realistic, like today feeling name for it, let's talk about it. But I asked my genius therapist, is there a name for this? I want to talk about this on The Aligned Singer. Here's what happened. Here's how personally I got myself through it and out of it. And we need to talk about this in the singing world because so many singers that I've worked with face this at one time or another. It's almost universal. What's it called? And she said, I'd have to look at my textbook to be certain, but it is a cognitive distortion. So that's a fancy term. Sometimes we use fancy bel canto terms. Today we're using fancy inner work terms. Cognitive refers to your mind. If you don't know, cognition is like a thought. Cognitive and distortion means you got it twisted. You got it twisted. That means you're wrong. Listen, we're all wrong sometimes. So I like to think of this, if a student is facing this and we're dealing with it in a lesson, trying to get through it and trying to help them get to the other side, I would call this something like if you've ever been in a funhouse or you've even seen a movie where there's a funhouse and there's a mirror that has those waves and you can't really see the way that you actually look. It's like looking into a broken, fractured mirror or looking into a funhouse mirror where you really can't see your reflection. In fact, I'm sure you've realized this in our digital age that the reflection of our face in a mirror is backwards. It's not what people see of us. Singing is so prone to this. If you're a singer and if you're distracted, come back to me and lean in, because you need to hear that this is inherent to our instrument. I'm not saying beating ourselves up is inherent. It's not. It's not healthy functioning when that happens, and we have to get through and get out of it like we're talking about today. But being a singer means that we never have a direct feedback loop of our instrument ever. We never will. We have to let go of that hope and that possibility. That's why we need a voice teacher. That's why we need external feedback for our vocal technique and vocal development. It's because you'll never be able to hear your actual sound of your voice. That's why you need a voice teacher. You can't do this stuff all by yourself. This is why bel canto besties like me exist. So our instrument is prone to it because we can't hear really what it sounds like. It's not like, and I don't want to offend my orchestral colleagues, but it's not like a cello that you can hear, or piano. That's a great example, that you can really hear the sound. And maybe somebody else will tell you what it sounds like in the recital hall, but you understand what your instrument sounds like. You can hear what you're doing when you're playing it. We're not that way. You can never actually hear what's going out into the space. Because why? Because your voice is here. If you're not watching, just look deeply into your earbuds. I'm pointing at my mouth. Your voice is here, and where you take in audio sensory things is right next to your mouth. And if you are looking deeply into your earbuds, I'm talking about your ears. That's why we never have a direct feedback loop. So we're particularly prone to this. And when this happened to me, and what brings it to the Aligned Singer today, it was right after a performance. And in the performance, I had a tiny, like in between sets, I had a tiny little recognition of, oh, even my perception of this performance is completely skewed because I'm performing it. I'm not receiving it. I'm giving it. So there's lots of slippery slopes that we can fall down when it comes to the fun house of how we perceive our singing when we perform, or like I said, I'm going to use the word perform, but you can say audition, you can say sing in front of others, anything like that. When we perform, we're particularly prone to this. So we're going to get really, really real. I do not want to share this with you, but I feel that I need to because I want to keep it real. On the Aligned Singer, on Sunday, I gave a concert in my very community, right here where you're sitting with me now. And it was a fantastic concert. It was a great experience. The feedback from the audience, many of whom I know, many of whom I was introducing to classical voice for the very first time, absolutely loved it. And you know what that means? That means it was a win from their perspective. But I want to be really real with you about what happened right after and see if you're going to say, oh my gosh, Sarah, I've done that too. Because I bet you have. Because all of us have. What happened right after the performance, after the venue cleared out, and I'm packing up my things, wiping my sweaty brow, etc., getting my music together, getting all my hair and makeup stuff from the green room together, I started fixating on two, honestly, imperceptible to the audience mistakes that I made. Two, in a 2-hour concert. I made two imperceptible mistakes. Are you tracking? Have you ever done this? And I know enough about myself and enough about the landscape of singing, being a voice teacher and having sung professionally now for a very long time to know what was happening. But I'm going to be totally frank with you, that's not normal for me. I'm not the type of person that walks off stage and starts to fixate on one teeny tiny little pitch that I sort of kind of only delivered 80% great and not 100% great. That's not in my character anymore because I've done so much inner work to weed that out of my consciousness, because all it does is limit my singing. And if you do that a ton, I hate to call you out so honestly, but sometimes we've got to just boom, snap out of it. It's just limiting. It is not supportive of your growth. But I saw it start and I was like, oh, I see there's a weed in the garden of my mind. And I'm going to figure out how to gently but firmly yank that sucker, because this does not belong in the arena of my self-talk in the privacy of my own mind. I would not allow my student to talk to herself that way, and I am certainly not going to model that for her. So you can tell I get really strong with myself. If I see something that I wouldn't have a student do, I'm like, boom, I need to nip it in the bud and stop it. But it happened, and I was not able to control it. At least I didn't feel that I could for the first 2 to 4 hours right after the performance. It was a daytime performance, so I had some evening time, and I found myself fixating and ruminating on everything that I could possibly perceive went wrong. So it started with 1 or 2 really imperceptible mistakes from the audience's perspective, and started to snowball in a short list of things that I would love to do better in performing and marketing a concert in the future. But as the evening went on, I was able to say, I'm going to park this thought. It's okay if you can't do that. If you're new to doing the inner work on the arena of your mind, the way you talk to yourself in the privacy of your mind, or you're new to performing and you get a flood of this, it's okay if you can't stop it before you go to sleep. Just know that in your sleep, just plan that that's going to be your reset. So that evening, I was able to shut it up by saying, I'm just probably a little bit tired right now. I'm going to stop thinking about this now that I'm back home. I'm going to unpack my stuff, crash, read a little bit, take an Epsom salt bath, and chill. And in the morning, I was too exhausted to do it in the evening. That's the truth. I want you to do it immediately, but as soon as possible, hopefully immediately. For me, I'm never gonna lie to you on the show, I had to wait until the next morning because I was completely exhausted and had to immediately go to sleep. I said, I promised myself that first thing tomorrow, I am going to run to my journal and do an exercise to move through and beyond this, because I would never allow my student, if she was being honest with me about this going on with her, to stay here, because that can destroy, I'm being completely honest with you right now, that can destroy your entire career, and it can cause you contracting and quitting. It can even cause vocal harm. From the perspective of a voice teacher and a technician, you do not want to stay in that destructive, erosive, negative self-talk, cognitive distortion, because it's a bunch of hogwash. So I love on episodes of The Aligned Singer like this, where we start to shine a flashlight on, look deeply into your earbuds if you're just listening. I'm really looking through a telescope, but it's kind of like a telescope flashlight. We can shine a flashlight on the darker things that happen in the privacy of our own minds and start to illuminate them. Usually they sort of shrink, like it was a tiny ant-sized bug, if I'm giving a bug example, and we thought it was like a massive nightmare spider. You know what I mean? So I want to share some practical tools with you so that if you ever get caught up in a spiral like this and you find yourself in what the therapy world would call a cognitive distortion, you can flip it and say, hey, I'm not perceiving myself correctly. Sarah told me that one time on The Aligned Singer that this is normal for singers. I'm going through something normal, etc., 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 and then give you some tools so that you can come through and out of it. Let's start with what I do with a student. If we have something like a master class or a studio class or any group singing environment where you are performing and working with me up in front of other people, this is where I see it the most, where someone will make a negative comment about their singing, or many negative comments about their singing, or their nature as a singer, like, oh my gosh, I'll give you some examples. I've heard them all. Oh my God, I failed. Oh no. Depends. It depends on your maturity level if you let that out or not. But some people will be like, ooh, I didn't like that. You can always see it on everybody's face. Go to the mirror. You'll see what your face is doing. Oh, those types of faces. Again, look deeply into my microphone if you can't see the faces I'm making. And just imagine the faces you make when you perceive that you do not sound good. It's like, I'm not afraid to make those faces on camera. You shouldn't be either. So it can be just that, or it could be something like a narrative that starts. Like, that note was terrible, which quickly spirals. If you're distracted, come back to me. This is important. That, ooh, I didn't like that note. Or even this face, can quickly spiral into, oh my gosh, I don't sing that note well. Let's pick a D. I used to struggle with a D. Not a high D, just a normal D on the staff. It's true. I don't sing D well. That part of my voice, the upper middle voice, I really struggle there. Oh my gosh. And then guess what? Very important for you to understand this. Then you will start to struggle there if you stop there. It's okay for these cognitive distortions to come up. It's normal. This is normal stuff that comes up when we're being really vulnerable and singing in front of others and have a reaction, or there is a note that we feel didn't go very well, or even a part of the song that didn't go very well, or parts of our performing skill set that just didn't go very well. That's normal. It's learning. If you came out of the womb performing perfectly, there wouldn't be, all of us helping each other with our craft. Are you joking me? That's not how it works. So it's part of learning. But what you do not want to let happen, do not get this twisted. What you do not want to let happen is that you park there and then create and start to spin a story about you and your ability as an artist based on the sour note or the thing you didn't like about sharing your gift. Or even, dare I say, and I do dare, because you need to know this happens, getting unsolicited, meaning you did not ask for it, feedback that is negative from someone who's in a position of power, like behind an audition table. If you've heard all of the Aligned Singer, you've heard me mention that before. Sometimes that happens. It is not appropriate behavior from behind an audition table to try and give unsolicited negative feedback as if you're going to help a singer. No can do on that. Industry needs to stop that right away. But even that, you cannot let that start to take root like a nasty weed and influence the story you have in your mind about your ability to perform, your ability to share your gift, or your ability, this is very important. Remember, I'm an educator. It never stops there, right? If there's an icky note, it's fixable. We're adaptable. That's the nature of voice. Your story about your potential to grow as a singer can never be influenced by these negative thoughts that come from inside or unfortunately outside, if that ever happens. That's so important for me to drive home. Now, you might be asking me, great. Well, once in a while I do spin out this awful story from this weird funhouse mirror. What do I do about it, Sarah? How do I break out of this? How do I get a more realistic picture now that you've told me that the nature of voice is that I'm never going to have a true feedback loop from mouth to ear of my own voice? How do I get more grounded and neutral so that I can get in a place of growth? And I would go, that is a fantastic question. And here's your answer. If you were working with me, like I mentioned, in a masterclass or a studio class environment, I would literally, I'm not exaggerating, I learned this from my acting teacher in New York City because we had to do it once in a while when we would start doing this back then. I would have you wing your arms out as wide as possible and spread your legs out like a capital letter A and make a huge shape with your body, like a big star shape. So you're taking up as much space as you can with air all around you. I would have you stay in that shape as long as it takes to verbally speak to the group 3 positive things about your performance. Now let's break this down. 3 positive things about your performance are and are not. I'm going to give you what they are not. It is not how many people came to your concert, that somebody brought you roses, that somebody brought you a present, that someone said something nice to you. That might count. It is not about other people. It is not, if you're a mature singer or you aspire to be, you have to stick to this rule. Please, for the love of all things vocally, do this. It is not about your outfit. It's not about your nails. It's not about your makeup. Not about your hair. It's not about how hot you looked. That does not have to do with your voice. It has to do with your performing, but it does not have to do with your voice. It needs to be 3 things about your performing. How you delivered the text, a vocal sound that you created, a small breakthrough that you might have had, a way that you've grown, if it's a studio class or a learning environment, masterclass environment, a way that you improved from past iterations of it. That could even count for a performance. It has to be things about you, and it has to be things about your performance, not the way you look, not that sort of thing. Not the audience, not the number of people who came, etc. 3 things. But I also want, if you want to take this to the next level, if you're anything like me, you do. If you want to take this to the next level, I'm going to tell you what I did. This was extremely helpful and immediately snapped me out of funhouse mentality and back into reality and a growth mindset, meaning ready to take action for the next concert. This is what I did. In my journal, I knew I would resist it, so I numbered my page 1 to 10 like I was a little kid. Number 1, number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I said, Sarah, you are going to find 10 things that went exceptionally well about your performance. Because if you're going to make your students do it, you're going to better well do it too, and you're going to do it over triple what you make them do. I like to hold myself to a high standard because it makes me a fantastic voice teacher. And that's exactly what I did. I numbered my page 1 to 10, and I found 10 exceptional things about my delivery, my vocal sound, which of course I'm passionate about because I love technique, and I started, had to hold, if you heard the first episode of The Aligned Singer, I had to build my voice back from scratch because of a lot of vocal trouble. I was like, wow, that is a big deal. That is such a big deal. And I found other phrases that I had spun out in the way that, dare I use this word, perfectly matched what I was dreaming of delivering to my audience, things like that. And I wasn't overshooting it either. Hey, what I'm telling you is reality. And guess what? The amplification and noise, the noisiness of the 2 mistakes that I started to fixate on immediately after everybody left the concert and we were packing up my car, and I started to feel so insecure and oh my God, like that's not like me. So anyways, immediately diminished to the minute size that they actually are. Literally no one, even the only 2 people, one is my collaborator who knows my voice and knows how the piece goes, that one little note went funny. He noticed, and one of my best friend noticed, who knows my voice inside and out. Those are the only 2 people in the entire room that notice. And guess what? They don't remember. I'm the only person that remembers now. Oh gosh, now you remember, but you weren't there, so that's okay. Those 2 things started to shrink to the tiny crumb size that they actually are in the context of a 2-hour, overwhelmingly successful performance. Because I did the 10 things list. I want to be real with you. If I hadn't sat in the hammock and was preaching to you what you should do, if this happens to you, but not doing it myself, I would still, days later, be spinning out and asking people, was it okay? Did you like it? I don't know. What about that one note? I would still be doing that. I'm not joking you. My friends know I would be voice noting them every day in deep insecurity because I hadn't regulated my perception of my performance. That's how important this inner work, it matches with the outer work and they go together. You cannot do one and not the other. The other thing I did to take this to my personal next level, because I'm preparing for more and more high level solo engagements and most especially a huge recording project. It's actually a series of 3 recording projects. As I prepare for professional engagements at that level, I do need to be able to give myself grounded, realistic, unemotional, not overly critical, not overly celebrating myself and blowing, smoke up my tushy. Oh, I'm so great. Neither of those things are balanced. I had to give, and because I'm a mature professional artist, I can do it. I'm also a voice teacher, so I lead people through this process a lot. Here's what I did. And if you feel ready for it and not controlled in the sway of the funhouse emotions, like dizzy by all of your emotions around making a mistake or perceiving yourself as not performing as well as you want, then I would suggest next to the page where you do the 10 things, or it can be 3, it can totally be 3. That's plenty. It's very hard when you're first starting to even find 3, but you have to. On the next page, here's what I did, and I will hand this to you as a final step for the process. This really helped me integrate it and immediately that day, start taking action. I made a note while things were really fresh in my mind of the things that I would like to improve next time. It was things around the marketing of the concert. That's stuff like invitations. That's stuff like the design that we came up with, my studio manager and I came up with for it. That's things like news spots, which I had, being on classical radio, which I was. How can I grow that and improve the things that I found overwhelming and draining? Because it was really hard. How can I make that easier and more sustainable so that I don't quit, but continue doing this and make it a sustainable part of my personal performance practice? That's just one thing. I think I had about 9 or 10 things on the list. Some of it was about my voice felt like it was totally, because I'm so crazy passionate about vocal technique, and I do vocalize every single day. You know that if you follow me on Instagram and TikTok or whatever the current social media wazoo is. I do vocalize every day, so that felt great. But performing wise, there were things that I felt I wanted to grow with, for example, my relationship with the text, my relationship with the history around the composers, delivery of the text. As these pieces mature in my own body of work, that will happen, but I wanted to jot it down. Another example is I noticed while I was preparing the program, quite a bit of surprising amount of resistance around practicing. Sometimes I would put a 2-hour block in my, I'm being so real with you. This is so embarrassing, but I think you need to hear it because I'm a professional performer and an educator. And if people aren't saying this, well, golly, you need to know what's happening. So I found myself really resisting a 2-hour block of practice that I had scheduled into my workday. And I found myself, I would do maybe 40 minutes and then I'd be like, I really want to stop. Or I'd show up a little bit late to my practice date with myself. And I thought, well, gosh, that added to my stress level because I thought I had, X amount of hours with the repertoire and I shrunk it, my own self. We'll talk about that another time. We'll talk about the time management another time. But those are just some examples of things. And if you ever listened to or watched the fill in the blank exercise, it's like, well, here's a struggle. Being able to truly show up fully for my practice time, or wanting a better relationship with a text, or XYZ. Then fill in the blank is you don't stop there with the period at the end of the sentence. You keep going. So you're like, well, then what do I do? And so now I get to be in the space. This is growth mindset in action. I get to be in the space and phase now of, okay, I took my notes when it was super duper fresh of the things that I'd like to grow and improve. How am I going to do that? And now let me get into fun solution mode. And now that I'm out of the emotional wave of being stuck in a fun house of cognitive distortion, named, which snapped me out of it, for me 10, for you can be 3 to 10 positive things about the performance itself, your performance, my performance in this case, and then said, okay, there are things that I noticed that I want to tighten up next time. Now the question becomes, how can I address those, or how can you address those if you go through that whole process? Isn't that so simple? It's like step 1. 3 positive things about your performance, not about other people, but about you, and you must name them yourself. 2, if you feel ready to do so and you feel emotionally regulated and grounded, then journal out a few things that you remember when it's really, really, really fresh in your mind. What are the things that you'd like to grow in and improve on for next time? And then you can start to take action on those things at whatever pace is right for you to grow in that way. And it's really as simple as that. But what you need to know is if you sit in the cognitive distortion, if you sit in front of the funhouse mirror and you park there and you set up camp there and you decide that that's going to be your perception of yourself, this is the risk you face. And I am not exaggerating because I have watched colleagues drop and drop and drop and drop from conservatory till now, 20 years later this year. You will end up driving yourself into the ground. I hate to be so real with you, but somebody needs to tell you this. You're going to drive your craft into the ground. You're going to start hating what you used to love because all you do, it's not because of other people, it's because you're not able to get back to regulation when there is a problem that comes up or when there is a sour note, which there will be. This is singing. This is improving. This is growing. This is part of being a lifelong performer. There's always things for us to learn, and that's the beauty of performance, not the beating you up of it. It's the beauty of it because it's a constant lifelong journey. Isn't that wonderful? But if you sit there in the, I want to say in the dirty diaper of your cognitive distortion, isn't that a silly thing to say? But it can snap you out of it right away. Like, am I sitting in the, I need to get fresh. And I'm not 2 years old either. If that happens to you and you decide to stay there, it can just rot away your perception of your ability to succeed. And guess what? The person that's in charge of your success and your ability to succeed is you. It's you. It's not the industry. It's not the person behind the audition table. It's not the person reviewing your application. It's not the judges at the competition. It's not your voice teacher. It's not your neighbor. It's not your mom. It's not your dad. It's not your bestie. It's you. You get to be in the driver's seat of your success. And if you let your own perception of yourself drain and rot away, the experience of learning to perform is going to become so negative or so black and white thinking or so perfectionism driven that it's going to take the joy out of it for you. And you're not going to want to show up to practice. You're not going to want to start auditioning and performing and things like that. You're not going to want to market your career or market your next concert, because it's going to feel overwhelming and really negative. And who wants it? This is your life we're talking about, and this is your gift. So I just want to remind you of the joy that you have when you first come to performing, or these sparks of joy that happen and across your journey of performing and your love of singing and your love of music. And hopefully this very simple exercise will help you get back there if you've let a bunch of weeds pop up in the garden of your mind. I sure hope so anyways. Well, I think we can leave it there for today. That was real talk on real talk on real talk, but I gotta tell you, I gotta give it to you straight. I cannot, oh my gosh. Because why? Because the truth is And this is not a cognitive distortion and not a funhouse mirror. The truth is, you are the only person on the planet ever, in any generation, in any time period ever, that has your unique voice. Nobody can sound exactly like you. You're like a snowflake. That's so silly that I said that. I was not planning on saying that. But you are totally unique. And you have an incredible gift to share with the world, or you would not ever even find the aligned singer. So I know you, and I know you have a really strong gift to share with the world. Do not let yourself diminish it. Instead, diminish the things that bother you and then boop, start to transform them so that you can grow into the performer that you deserve to be and that the world needs you to be, because they need to hear your voice. They need to hear the way you sing that favorite song. They need to hear the way you interpret the music. I truly believe that. And I believe in you. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me today. And if you want to connect with me, I would super love that. And I'm not just blowing smoke in your dishy. I really mean that. So you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Voice Teacher Sarah. You can find me on TikTok at the same name. If you're not watching this on YouTube, I'm also there at the same name. And it's me running all those accounts. There's nobody else in there except for me. So if you DM me, I'll DM you back, and it's really me, your bel canto bestie. And if you'd like to talk more about this or had aha moments or have questions, feel free to reach out. If you're interested in studying with me or joining one of my programs, I'm in the middle of an incredible brand refresh. I'm not really sure. I'm in the middle of a rebirth. So do me a favor, and instead of me telling you my website name, just Google Sarah Hockey Voice Teacher and click on the website that comes up. So we'll leave it there today. Oh my gosh. If nobody told you today, probably your bestie did. But if nobody told you today, I want you to remember that I believe in you. And that's why we're here on The Aligned Singer. Bye for now.